Good afternoon, class. It's Justin Carey again for another Raspberry Pi tutorial. It is currently 6:14 p.m. on July 28th, 2014. So let's see what we're going to be doing today. And it's going to be very quick, so don't worry, it's not a long video. What we're going to be doing is actually looking at how to view the IP address for the Raspberry Pi. Because knowingly, you cannot just regularly access it as if you would on a Windows PC operating system. So, how do you go through that? How do you figure it out? How do you see what the IP address is so you can do the file transfer protocol and web server hosting with this device? Well, what you need to know about is this little thing called the LX terminal. The LX terminal is basically your DOS prompt window or your command line window, or if, like I said, if you're not using GUI, you're going to be seeing this command line window throughout. So this is going to be your tool to use, the LX terminal. So let me just go into that, and yes, my hands are shaking because I'm using this with one hand. So yeah, and I'm too cheap, or should I say too lazy, to actually use my real recording equipment. That's in the next room. I'm just lazy. I don't feel like getting up. So let me pan over to the actual window, and you can see it says the name of the actual device, Pi at Raspberry Pi, so on and so forth. And those things in blue are just going to tell you that's where you would put your coding. You don't have to write that every time. It's going to be there for you. So what do we do? How do we view the IP address since we have this little command line window open? So what you want to do is actually do / well, let me actually get into this. There we go. But it has to be highlighted black, otherwise that means I'm not on it. If this is gray, if this top part is gray, that means I'm not on it. If it's black, then I'm on it. And you can see how the cursor is filled in gray, so yeah, might want to make sure you stay clicked onto it. Now my hand is going to be shaking throughout this whole entire time, just trying not to be frustrated at the fact that my hand will be shaking. So what we're going to do is do / SBIN, that's SBIN, /, and then we're going to put ifconfig. So it should look like this. / SBIN, / ifconfig, and hit enter. And you see information popping up, and this is related to the actual networking properties of the actual Raspberry Pi. And the main thing we want to look at is the iNet address. That would be your Internet Protocol address. So mine is 19.2.16.8.0.20 or 20. Now I'll show you, I'll go into a video later about what those numbers mean and what it means to the subnet and the mask, what that means. But I'll do that at a later date. But right now, if you get a program called CyberDuck, it's very good for file transfer protocols and networking capabilities between your devices. So I'm gonna cut this off, but do remember if you wanna actually start making this like a video game console, the steps are to, of course, know where your IP address is. That's one. 2, make sure you have enough room in your SD card, or swap the SD card out. So you could probably get a 64 gig SD card, put it in, and then have multiple operating systems on it and run the other operating system, which will be RetroPie, which is PIE, not PI. That'll be for the video game consoles to run like Nintendo, Super NES, Sega Genesis, and so on and so forth. But make sure you get your IP address, know what that is. Make sure you get a software that will actually allow you to do file transfer protocols. I mean, you could just download it into the SD card, but I like using file transfer protocol because it's fancy, in my opinion. And then make sure you get the RetroPie. Make sure you either torrent it. You must either torrent it or find another version that's already been unzipped. And make sure you have something to unzip it with, because it will be zipped once you torrented it. And it's going to be easy settings. All you need is probably just a USB remote controller, like a USB SNES controller, and just do a bunch of basic setups and you're fine. So I'll repeat again. Number one things, know your IP address, which I just showed you how to do. /sbin/ifconfig, and the iNet address will be right there once you pop it in. Then you want to make sure you have something for file transfer protocols if you want to get fancy, or download the operating system, which is RetroPie, into your actual SD card that you want to use it in. Make sure you put it in there. And then you need a USB remote controller, and setup's easy. So there you go. So I've told you the instructions. If you guys want to follow through with it, be my guest. Just make sure you don't mess up anything, because I am not liable for you mess up your device. This is Justin signing off.